So imagine I'm a little kid in Sunday school and I ask my Sunday school teacher a question. I tell her I've been reading the Bible and I found out that there was some men that came after Lot when he was at the gate of Sodom, and they wanted to have the men that went inside. I don't know why. They wanted to know them for some reason. I don't understand that. Be friends or something like that. But Lot was afraid and said, "No, don't come in, and I have 2 daughters that are virgins. Take them instead." Of course, the men that came there came out and took care of it. That didn't happen. So it never did. So the men didn't get the daughters. But why was Lot willing to give up his 2 virgin daughters to people so readily? How come, Sunday school teacher? My name is Dan Paulson. That's a tough one, isn't it? Let's read it. Before I get into it though, I'm going to contend that I do not look at any of these as history. Not one of them. They are nesting a deeper teaching. They actually sound goofy to me. You read through them, giving up your wife to Pharaoh and getting slaves and animals in return. I read through Genesis and go, what is going on here? This doesn't sound good at all. Noah naked and drunk in his tent. Things just keep rolling along of values that you're like, whew, wow, that's kind of crazy. Anyway, people will say they found the city. It's been archaeologically dug up. There's proof to this story. And I say that is not proof at all. That only proves that that's when the story was made. If I wrote a story today that was a myth and I needed to cross a river and I picked someplace down here locally where there's an old bridge that broke down and it's long gone and the pilings are still there, but a new bridge is there instead. But I write a story about crossing that bridge and, of course, I never did, but it's all in the story. And that's my crossing of the threshold, and I go on some big adventure. And somebody comes along later and goes, "We found the remains of the bridge. The story really happened." You see how easy it is for that to happen. Okay, so I'm not looking at the story as if it really happened. It's actually crazy. If we do what Jesus tells us to, and that is to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, and that doesn't just mean to understand where they're coming from. What that means is to put yourself in their position. Try to live from inside of their mind. Now, if I was Lot and I did that, if I was guarding a gate and some men came in and went inside and then some ruffians came and said, "Hey, give us those men. We would like them." I can't imagine that the first thing would come to my mind would be that I've got 2 virgin daughters. Why don't you take them instead? Let me appease you. Why would that be the first thing that comes to your mind? Why wouldn't you want to fight them? Why wouldn't you want to get the men and tell them what's going on and protect your daughters? Honestly, the question begs to be asked. Why would you consider that an option at all? Don't you care about your daughters? Okay, this is from the book of Genesis. I'm using a new revised standard version, an updated edition, just to make it an easier read. This is not my preference for other research, but for reading, this is a better one. Okay, let me get to chapter 19 here. So here it starts. We have our judgment pronounced on Sodom, and then it goes into something right here that is something very important to me. This is what I call my Sodom analog farm, where I collect up a lot of numbers because of some sequence. If you follow my work, you'll know what I'm talking about. I've got videos up on it if you're interested. Okay, here's where the story starts, though. All of that was done, it's set up, and then what do we have? The depravity of Sodom. Chapter 19. The 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. He said, "Please, my lords, turn inside to your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet. Then you can rise early in the morning and go on your way." And they said, "No, we will spend the night in the square." But he urged them strongly, so they turned aside to him and entered his house, and he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. But before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both young and old, all the people to the last man surrounded the house, and they called out to Lot, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us, so that we may know them." Lot went out of the door to the men, shut the door after him, and said, "I beg you, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. Look, I have 2 daughters who have not yet known a man. Let me bring them out to you, and do to them as you please. Only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the shelter of my roof. Look, I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. let me bring them out to you and do to them as you please. What really happened there? Let's look at it from all angles. Lot just gave up his daughters to be gang raped by the men of the city of Sodom. Willingly, readily. Do to them as you please. Only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the shelter of my roof. All right, I have a metaphorical interpretation that makes perfect sense, but I'm not going to lay it out here. It doesn't make sense to very many people unless they're on the path. So what I'm going to do is end this video and ask people that have watched it to, if you have an explanation for this. Bearing in mind there's a couple of things. Number one, that this is a trend through Genesis. Starts with Abram. I'm scared. I'm going to give up my wife, Sarai. In fact, let's just pull them up. Abram and Sarai in Egypt. This is right after the calling. God put him in Canaan where there was a famine in the land. I'm going to just jump to this part right here. When he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife, Sarai, I know well that you are a woman beautiful in appearance. And when the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife. Then they will kill me, but they will let you live. Say that you are my sister, so that it may go well with me because of you, and that my life may be spared on your account. So the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful, and when the Pharaoh saw her, and he was taken into her house, into Pharaoh's house, and for her sake he dealt well with Abram, and he had sheep, oxen, male donkeys. So he got rewarded for giving his wife up to Pharaoh. Okay, right in the beginning of chapter 20, Abraham and Sarah have just been converted from Abram and Sarai. So it's the same two people here at a different iteration further along in history. From there, they journeyed toward the region of the Negeb and settled between Kadesh and Shur. While residing in Gerar as an alien, Abram said of his wife, Sarah, she is my sister, and King Abimelech of Gerar sent and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, you are about to die. You see, he gave his wife right up. And he's going to say later, surely there is no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife, is the reason. I did it because I thought, surely there is no fear. So he was afraid for his life and gave up his wife. This time, it didn't go all the way through. As we get into Isaac, and this one jumps down to chapter 26, Isaac and Abimelech. And what we have here, there was a famine in the land. Same thing happens. Starts out with no food. You got to go somewhere. They are going to run into King Abimelech. Let me see if I can find the spot here. When the men of the place asked him about his wife, he said, she is my sister. For he was afraid to say my wife, thinking, or else the men of this place might kill me for the sake of Rebekah, because she is attractive in appearance. We don't have to keep going through all of those. We can see the pattern. We've got somebody here that's just willing to give up their daughters. There's a trend here that somehow this female part of my existence is just, I'm willing to just give it up. And I don't look at that in my world, in my viewpoint, as a very good value system. I don't live that way, and I don't feel that way. I don't think most people do. I think a close examination of the Bible is something that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, but it needs to be done. There's things in here that need to be explained. Here's one that I'm going to tell you right up front is not going to work. It was prevented before it happened. He wasn't the one that stopped it. Only because those angels were there did it stop. He as a character, he as a human being, he as the person that is supposed to be, well, he's Lot. Just says, here, take my daughters and all, you men of the city, do what you will with them. Yeah, that's some scary stuff right there. So, that's the concern. Not that it was prevented, but that he was so willing to do that. Is that the character of the human being that we're looking up to? It should not be. It never should. No, I don't think so. We live today in society outside of religion with much higher standards than that. There are people that don't. But generally speaking, as a society, we don't live like that. Not at all. No, we don't give up our wives and our daughters. No, that's very bad behavior. So these are the things that beg to be explained. And again, if you don't interpret them and you treat them as history, I'm curious to see what you got. Anybody else who has metaphoric explanations as I do, I'll do a follow-up video. I'll wait till some comments are posted below, but I'll do a follow-up to this one where I do offer up my interpretation. But in this one, yeah, let's just leave it hanging right there. Why? Why? There's got to be a better reason than, there's got to be a better reason to interpret that story than there is to just carry it at face value and not do anything with it. Okay, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm looking forward to reading any comments below. I'll see you on the next one.